Okay, everybody. So welcome to tonight's Keys to Consciousness. Tonight we're going to be talking about programming partners, and then I'm hoping that we get to a little bit of Gene Key 57. So I just wanted to touch base on this particular gene key today. I've been doing a lot of work with 57 myself, and so that is where I wanted to start. Okay, so we already did our breathing. This was my slide for it. I just wanted to remind you all, right, that we are, it is such a gift just to be alive and to be able to breathe, right? We breathe and we prosper. So I wanted to give you, I guess, the affirmation tonight, just as a reminder for you. There is a really easy and quick way for you to get yourself centered and connect with yourself. And it is through your breath. You know, your breath is your superpower. So yes, we breathe and we prosper. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about programming partners. So programming partners are so fascinating to me. And when I learned about this aspect of the gene key system, I instantly was just like, oh my gosh, like this is just really cool how things automatically align within the system and how it's kind of all connected. So first, let's take a look at the image. Here you can see, this is a picture of the I Ching wheel. So these, I think they're called hexagrams. That's the word that's coming through. So I'm pretty sure they're called hexagrams, but these hexagrams, you can see they are all different designs on them. So this represents the I Ching. So this is the I Ching will, right? Which is one of the, there's three foundations that the gene key system is based off of, and the I Ching being a big one. And I think I'm saying that wrong. I just went to a conference with Richard Rudd, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. It's not I Ching, but I don't know exactly how to say it, but I'll find out, you guys, so that I say it correctly. But I remember when he was talking, thinking like, oh, I do not pronounce that the way that it should. It's like I Ching. I don't know. It's not I. Like it is just an I when you spell it, but okay. Anyway, squirrel moment. But want you guys to know that that's not how you say it. And then here, this next one, you can see all of the gene key numbers. Okay. So there's 64 gene keys, and all of the gene keys have basically their own little spot on this wheel, okay? And they correlate to a hexagram. And then here, this is where the astrology comes in, okay? So here's some astrology symbols, the third layer in. And you can see that every gene key correlates, right, to another gene key directly across from it. And that is its programming partner. So that's what we're going to talk about. But that's kind of how the programming partners are determined, is by this beautiful image that we see here. So if we look, right, you can see 22 and 47 are programming partners. Now here, these three words, right, this is the city and the gift and the shadow frequency. Now, these all also will correlate with each other. So the words can be very similar, right? So for example, this one is dishonor for the shadow and oppression. Okay, so they have a similar feel to them, or a similar meaning when we look at the words. For the gift, it's graciousness, transmutation, and then the city is grace and transfiguration. Okay. If we go over to the words on the side now, this directly, I'm going to use the activation sequence, because this is where every gene key has a programming partner. But in the activation sequence, they are prominent in your profile. And so that is one reason why I really like working with the activation sequence, right? Because it's all, every gene key that you work with, the programming partner is in it, your profile as well. So you're really working with these two, right? Maybe shadows, like when you're doing your shadow work and you're working with the gene keys, right? You're working with these two shadows that are basically a pair. So if you're in a shadow state, right, one can really feed off of the other. Okay. So for example, I use mine a lot, right? But stress and dissatisfaction, those two really go hand in hand, right? If I'm stressed, it's as a result of being dissatisfied about something that's going on, whether it's in my mind, my heart, right, my environment. So they kind of make it harder for you to get out of it, right? Because they're playing together. But when we are able to be aware, right, that we're in the shadow state and raise that to the gift frequency, then we are able to also unlock this beautiful gift where within our shadows, right, are our gifts. And then we can see how the next level plays. So, how it works is your life's work, right? So this top sphere, and I know those of you on the call have all seen your profile, right? So if you wanted to take a look at your profile or pull it up, you can see what your shadows are, and your life's work and your evolution are programming partners. So those ones right here, right? And then there's a line that goes over to your other two, which they're your green spheres. These two are also programming partners. So all four in the activation sequence are programming partners. And then the others, they're all still in your profile and they have programming partners, but they don't directly correlate. The programming partner in the Venus sequence or the Pearl sequence both may not be in your profile. You may just have one of them. Okay. But in the activation sequence, that first sequence, the green one, you will have both partners, okay? And life's work will always be with evolution, and radiance will always be with purpose. Now, your hologenetic profile. So this is also really fascinating. When we pull your profile, right, I will ask for or if you go to the Gene Keys website and you put in your information, I'll ask for your time and your place of birth, or you'll put it in on the website. And that indicates the position of the sun, right, at the time that you were born. And opposite of the sun is the earth. So it's basically like this interplay of opposites, right, when we are pulling this information. So I just think that is just so cool. So your life's work is symbolically the sun, and your evolution is symbolically the earth, right, as you are working with the system. So I just think it's a really cool way to think of it. There's obviously a lot more to it for me that I'm like, ooh, I personally want to know more about like the science behind it, because I just think it's really fascinating, just even knowing like this placement is like divine, right? And it can be broken down. So that is kind of just a brief overview of the programming partners. So life's work, symbolically the sun, evolution, symbolically the earth, and then same thing with your radiance and your purpose, right? I just use life's work and evolution as an example. Okay, and then if we go to the next slide here, you can see as well, right? So I use the term interplay of opposites. The life's work, or the position of the sun, right? It represents the yang force of energy and the masculine energy, right? The expression of what we should do. And then the programming partner of that, your evolution, represented by the earth, the yin force, or your feminine, right, is driving what you do. So it's this beautiful balance that you get to play with and you get to find as you work with the Gene Keys and you adventure on the golden path to say, well, am I embracing my masculinity? Do I have a balance with my femininity, right? And what does that look like, and how does it play out as you contemplate, right? And you meditate on working with your profile. So, and then also the seed, right, equals the father's line, and the egg equals the mother's line. So same thing, right? We see the seed in the life's work, or this masculine, and then this feminine energy and the evolution, right, or the purpose. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, that this is kind of a overview of what the programming partners are. And if you have your Gene Key book, right, at the top of it, it will say what the programming partner is as one of the very first things. So here is where you would see the programming partner right there. Okay, so that is really fun to kind of look at. Fun as well if when you get into the Venus sequence, if you don't have both partners in, to still look at the one that's in your profile, but then also look at the programming partner of it and read it and see what insights you get there. So it's just another way of using the Gene Key system as well. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Gene Key 57. And this one, I have really, why I've been diving into it is because this is it's part of, there's something called codon rings in the book. And the codon rings are basically gene keys that kind of all work together, right? So in this codon ring in particularly is 18, 46, 48, and 57. And what I love about this codon ring, which this codon ring, they all have a name. This one's called the Ring of Matter. And we're not going to go so much into the codon rings, but just to kind of give you guys some insight into what another layer, right, of this amazing system is. All of these keys, particularly in the Ring of Matter, correlate to cycles of imprinting. Okay, and what I mean by cycles of imprinting is the ages from really when you're an embryo in the womb to 21. Okay, so your development into adulthood. And there is 7-year cycles, but in Gene Key 57, why this one has really spoken to me lately is because I've been doing a lot of work on my core wound. And this is a specific sphere in the Gene Key profile. It is, the core wound is shared with the vocation sphere, and it is part of the Venus sequence as well as the Pearl sequence. So what we're talking about for 57 is that core wound though, okay? And if you want to know more about like core wounding, Gene Key 57 is a great place to go to learn more about just core wounding in general. Your core wounding, the core wounding of the earth, like the earth or humanity, right? So, and then the other gene keys that are in the Ring of Matter, they directly link to ages from when we're out of the womb. So 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. So those are really fun to kind of know. This is another aspect that I haven't talked about yet on Keys to Consciousness, is that the codon rings deliver some fascinating insight. And sometimes as compared to even looking at your profile, right, it's just fun to understand these aspects and learn more, specifically what we're talking about today about imprinting, right? And how every single human, right, has wounding and how that development plays out and what that looks like. So that's kind of what I've been diving into lately, and I am really loving it. So I want to talk about Gene Key 57, and the shadow here, right, is unease. And if this relating to the core wound, when we talk about unease, right, really, if we're talking about any shadow at all within the gene keys or the 64 gene keys, they all play a part, right? Or they are a part really of unease, right? So unease, one way to really look to see like how can we connect with ourselves, or what is our relationship with ourselves and with this specific shadow with unease, is to sit in a room by yourself for 30 minutes. And most of the time, if someone does that, unease, the shadow starts to come up. Okay. And we may want to distract ourselves. We may not be able to sit there, and we may find our mind wandering, right? And that can also be a distraction. But can we bring it back? Can we bring it back to the silence and sitting in the moment with whatever comes up inside of us? So, and you can even right now, right? Think about that for yourself. Connect with yourself and say, what is bringing me unease? Connect with your body as I'm speaking to you and say, mentally, is there some unease showing up for me right now? So there is really something to be said, I feel like, about this particular shadow, because it's kind of the shadow of the shadows, right? It's where it begins. And unease really begins for a lot of us when we are still an embryo and we're in the womb of our mothers. And whatever they are experiencing, right, is directly being imprinted on us in that throughout the entire 9 months, right? And there's different times for like specific physical of that 9 months, mental and emotional, that really all play out within that 9-month period. And then we come out and then we continue to be conditioned, right? And experience things that also play a part of how physically our environment impacts us and how mentally we're able to cope with things and how emotionally we're able to cope with things, or maybe we just stuff it down, right? So there is so much that lays within this fabulous key. So as we move from the shadow state, then we are able to unlock the gift of intuition. And intuition, right? When I say intuition, if there's things that come to mind where you're like, oh, I know that was my intuition. I know that was my intuition speaking to me, right? A lot of times, if we're not, I'm going to say doing the work right now, but maybe we're not consciously aware of what is coming up for us, right? Our intuition can be covered, right? It's blocked. And that happens as we continue, as we grow up, right? That's why we say, you'll hear people say a lot, like, kids are just so innocent, right? They're so free. There's not a lot of time maybe that they've had to have their intuition or their masks take place. Okay, so as we do the work, for lack of a better term right now, our intuition starts to be discovered, right? As we peel back these layers and unlock these shadows, our intuition starts to shine through like this beautiful diamond. And once we play with the intuition, right, and we start to have things speaking to us, because that's what our intuition is, right? We don't know how we know something, but we just know it because we are starting to connect with ourselves deeper, and we're starting to hear and really trust. Trust is a big one with intuition. Really trust what we are hearing. Ooh, I love that one just came through, because if we can trust it, right? Trusting our intuition, that is what helps us to propel, right? That is where we can start to move to Siddhic levels. And really, that's like great masters, right? People that have been doing the work for a really long time, and they're really, really clear, and their diamonds are sparkling, right? And their aura and their radiance and all the beautiful things. But then the Siddhic level here is clarity, and clarity for all things. So I know we're at time. I'm a little bit over, but I just wanted to talk a little bit, I guess, about Gene Key 57 and the beauty of working with Gene Key 57, reading Gene Key 57, and give you a little taste of this beautiful key. So I love you all. I hope that you all loved the breathing tonight and the session. Let me check. I did ask you guys. Okay, it was so relaxing. I really liked it. I loved it. It reminded me of a sound bath. Ooh, yes, very similar to a sound bath, and kind of just being able to connect, right, to where we are in ourselves in the moment. Oh, and Talia, thank you so much. I love it. Tonight I was feeling very like I need to activate my voice, and the first thing in my closet that was blue was this, so I went with it. So thank you so much for noticing that and telling me that. Okay, I love you guys so much, and I hope that you guys have a beautiful evening.